Welcome to Trucking Tributes. I'm your host for Trucking Tributes, Susan Patten, and we want to thank the folks for having us on Radio Nemo this morning with Trucking Tributes. And my guest is absolutely no stranger to you all. Courtney George, our Director of Transportation and Industry Relations, is joining me today on Trucking Tributes. Courtney, thanks for taking time out to join me today on the show.
There's nowhere I'd rather be than talking with you, Susan.
Oh, you are such a charmer as always. And it's part of that Southern girl charm that gets everybody's attention when we start talking with Courtney George. Because let's face it, the secret has been released on Trucking Tributes and everywhere else we can get the word mentioned. We need trucks. And the mission is growing and growing. And we say that every year, but it is absolutely God's honest gospel. And the mission is growing in 2025. Courtney, what are we up against in 2025?
So 2025, we are up against what I feel like I say every year, having more loads. But that is the best problem to have. Right now, we've got about 30 open loads. Some of them pick up in Maine at headquarters, but I have some out of Greensboro, some out of Phoenix, some out of Mississippi that are available. And so we are looking to work with carriers who can jump in, who can take one more load, who maybe if you can't make it to Maine, that's not a big deal. We've got 9 cross docks across the country. So if you're a carrier, if you're an owner operator, there is a place for you to help. I even have a small fleet of motorcycle trailers that come and help, and they maybe don't know where they're going until I load them, but every year even they have that impact. So don't be afraid to say, Courtney, I may not have a 53-foot van, but I've got a horse trailer. As long as we know the dimensions, we can definitely load that. And it takes that type of village to get this mission done every year.
Ah, Courtney, bless your heart for that affirmation because I've been saying it on Trucking Tributes all along on Radio Nemo that we need trucks and don't, as Courtney has always said to me, and I relay to our listening audience, don't let a thing stand in your way. Don't consider anything to be an obstacle because the transportation division at Wreaths Across America is absolutely magical, I think, in being able to come up with creative solutions. I mean, lay that out, Courtney, so that they really understand that truly, if there is a will, there is a way to make this happen.
I am committed to getting every single person who wants to be involved in the transportation of Wreaths involved. That is one thing that I am very passionate about and want to make sure that everyone understands that if you want to participate, there is a way. Yes, I can't load a flatbed. Yes, I can't load a tanker, but I can load basically everything else except for that. So we have ways that it will work, that it can make it all happen for you. And the only thing that's holding you back from getting to do it is just not reaching out.
So give everybody that email address that they can find you at.
Absolutely. I am super easy to get in touch with. All you have to do is email trucking@wreathsacrossamerica.org.
That is super, super simple. So, once again, to reiterate Courtney's message, don't let anything stand in your way. You know, you've been hearing all about it on Radio Nemo about how privileged and special a load this is for our professional drivers and our carrier companies. In fact, they all tell me, Courtney, on Trucking Tributes, that they know that as soon as they're done this year, they're already looking forward to next year, and it's such a coveted load for folks. So we may, in fact, have listeners, we're going to assume that are listening to Trucking Tributes today that have maybe heard a little bit about Wreaths Across America, or they've heard a lot, and they're thinking, man, okay, this is the year I want to get involved. So, aside from reaching out and speaking with you about getting involved, lay it down for folks. How does it work? How does it happen for everybody?
Absolutely. So what we would do is get you set up as a carrier, and you may be a driver and you may need me to reach out to your carrier, but if you give me their information, I will reach out to them. And that sometimes is the first step in the catalyst to get it moving for you. All we have to do is get you set up. Then we'll work together to select a lane that works for you. One of the most important things that I cover during an onboarding call is that almost all of my loads are multi-stop. And that's an important factor. A lot of times the loads will have between 8 and 12 stops on them. Don't let that intimidate you. What that basically is telling you is that you are going in and delivering wreaths into a community. And that has one of the most important aspects to it, because as you're going into the community, you are meeting the families of the people that we are delivering for, and you are finding out about the loved one that they are honoring. And this is why it's important, because everyone is out there working together. And a lot of times it's more meaningful, as you get to hear those stories in those communities. A lot of the, volunteer location coordinators try to plan a police escort in for you, and you as a driver celebrate it. I was talking about Driver Appreciation Week earlier this week because it's coming up on the 14th. And this is where, we celebrate drivers for 1 week, but I will tell you, as you're making those deliveries, you're getting celebrated like you've never been celebrated before. You're being celebrated and honored as the hero you also are, because you are bringing in something that, helps the community heal. You're bringing in something that gives them peace. I think it was Jimmy Shaw that said so many years ago, this is the most important load you will haul. And it truly is. And the feeling that you get from being out there and doing something good is just so incredible.
So true. Well spoken, Courtney. And Jimmy was right, as you are right, that it's the most important load that you haul. And I've had so many professional drivers on Trucking Tribute say, hey, I'm not involved yet in the escort to Arlington. I may want to be, but they recognize that that's really the coveted load, the coveted trip, and we have a waiting list usually for that position. But it is such an integral piece of what we are doing, all of these other locations. And gosh, going into 2025 this year, we've got well over 5,000 participating locations, in addition to Arlington National Cemetery throughout the country. As Courtney updated my information today on Trucking Tributes, we now have 9 operating cross docks throughout the country. So you don't have to make the full on trip to Maine. Everybody recommends that have been to Maine that you do so because of our grand hospitality and the scenery and everything that happens in Maine when you get there. But you don't have to do that. We recognize that it's a long haul. It can be an expensive haul for some. So anything, if they can pack it, you can deliver it. And by golly, those location coordinators, those folks who are uninitiated, these are volunteers who have stepped up for Wreaths Across America, who have raised their hand and said, look, I will become a location coordinator. I will start a community participating in my community, my cemetery in my community, and I will get the Wreaths Across America mission started. And so many of them, as Courtney pointed to, will make sure that you guys and gals out there on the road are absolutely treated like kings and queens. Food, gift cards, you name it, they wind up supporting the drivers, and they are so excited to see you coming. Because you got to remember, guys and gals, they've worked all year working on the mission. They've figured out who's buried in what cemetery. They know where the veterans are laid to rest. And they've been working their tuchuses off getting wreath sponsorships, which anybody can sponsor a wreath, by the way. A $17 donation to Wreaths Across America sponsors one of these beautiful handmade veterans wreaths that you are carrying to their location. So you're the piece that brings it all together for these thousands and thousands and thousands of volunteers across the country. And we are relying entirely on the transportation industry to make this mission to remember, honor, and teach happen. And Courtney, I just love the stories of the motorcycle trailers. I'm going to get connected soon with a motorcycle carrier who's going to tell us his
Yeah.
how he got involved. But and then she mentioned horse trailers. I mean, we've got some of these small community cemeteries where clearly the cemetery rules dictate that we can't bring a big tractor trailer unit into the cemetery for obvious reasons. But it's those community volunteers that show up at a location point that's been determined by the location coordinator and you as the driver, and you tell them that you're on the way, you're going to be there at such a point, and they have volunteers in every vehicle known to man, including horse trailers and motorcycle trailers, and we've got them all, and they're going to help you unload your load. And the multiple stops is just because of that. We have got, as I said, over 5,000 participating locations. And every day, even as Courtney and I are speaking, our liaisons are adding more and more locations because patriotic citizens are stepping up to the plate. Courtney, we know about the crosstalks and so forth, and we can talk more about that in a minute, but what do drivers get when they come to Maine?
They get an amazing experience. In transportation, we focus so much on the final mile. We talk about that day in, day out, that delivery. But what really matters to us at Wreaths Across America is that first mile. What your experience is from the time you check in at the driver's lounge to the time you're leaving. We are, so honored to have so many people who want to come up and come in. So checking in, getting loaded, us taking you and escorting you down to your dock where you're going to get loaded. We do have loading appointment windows, so we'll get you signed up for. We offer you 3 hot meals a day. Want to give a shout out to Tyson's for their cook team and being able to help make sure that there are 3 hot meals. And by the way, these meals are delicious. So we have all of that, but there's just a fellowship. It's like a homecoming when you come into that driver's lounge. For someone who spent 20 years in trucking prior to working at Wreaths Across America, if I could have gotten my driver's lounge to be as happy and positive as the one that we have, I probably would have worked myself out of a job, but it would have been the best problem in the world to have. People are welcoming you to the family. You're getting to know, other drivers. You're getting to know people, and drivers that have done it. So they may give you some helpful hints. They may be, delivering close to where you are. So we want to get everyone in there that can come in. Plus, they get to experience the driver first mile. So they get to go see the plant where the wreaths are made. They can sign up and place a dog tag out in our tip land. And for many people you'll get to see the tip land on the tour. We've got monuments to some really cool things, from the Lindbergh crate to the Tiger Flight story. And we go through all of that. But you can place that dog tag out on our tip land. To date, we have over 18,500 dog tags that have been placed out there in honor and remembrance. And this is something that is just so crucial and important.
Lady, you just gave me goosebumps when you told me the amount of dog tags out there. And, I think of rest in peace, Mason Smith, who passed recently this year, who said he described it best. And he just took such joy in driving other drivers around the tipland, especially at night. If the moon is bright and you can see all of these dog tags being illuminated by the car headlights that are driving through the tipland. And that is such an amazing program that is so coveted by folks that come up. It's called our Remembrance Tree Program, our family tree program, completely free of charge. We will make up replica dog tags for either you, if you have served, or a loved one in your family who has served. And you can select one of the trees out on the balsam fir tipland and claim it as your family tree. Place a dog tag there. You can get coordinates tickets for where the tree is located. So when you want to come back on vacation or at another time, you can go right to that tree at that time and revisit it. And that is so, so special to our families, Courtney. How many times have we heard from our families that they feel that the dog tag program is like a living memorial to their loved ones, because every third year that tree is going to be tipped. We don't cut these trees down. Over 3 million veterans wreaths produced by hand in the state of Maine in Columbia Falls, Jonesboro area, based on the tops of these trees. That's why they call the process tipping. They take the top of the tree and then they take some of the branches from the sides of the tree, and that's the brush that's used to make these veterans wreaths. And they are beautiful. They smell luscious, of course, and families that have dog tags placed on these trees feel that that is a living memorial to their loved one when they know that that veterans wreath is going to be honoring yet another veteran who is laid to rest. It really is an extraordinary program that so many of our professional drivers talk about having the experience, or even having the experience, Courtney, of making a wreath with Diane, Miss Diane, the little
Miss
lady.
Diane is she's top notch helping everybody make those wreaths.
She
We want everyone to have that experience. You're seeing the wreaths made, you're seeing where we're getting the brush off the tip land, and then bringing it back full circle where you make a wreath. And that is a wreath that you can take. Some people take it back to their company, so it goes on the front door of the building. Some people take it and place it on a headstone for their loved one. It may be on the front door of their house. It's a symbol of pride. It's a symbol of what you went up there and you learned about Wreaths Across America, but also it's showing what you have done, and you made that veterans wreath as well. And so we see them used in so many different ways, and want to make sure that everyone gets that opportunity.
That's absolutely right. And the thing that you may or may not know on Trucking Tributes, by the way, I'm speaking to Courtney George, our Director of Transportation and Industry Relations. I'm your host, Susan Patten. We want to thank the folks on Radio Nemo for having us on, of course, this morning. And for some folks that they don't realize that, yes, if you're up in Maine and you're at the driver check-in lounge and you're lucky enough to connect with Miss Diane and make your own veterans wreath, the other thing that they do with the transportation industry, which I think is just the best touch ever, is once you've loaded at that dock, the last thing they do to your truck is they attach one of those beautiful balsam fir wreaths with the red bow to the front of your grill on your tractor. And it is so cool because that's how we can distinguish. Yes, you may
I
have a
know.
trailer. You might have that beautiful wrap, but even if you don't have a wrap, I know that when I'm heading down to headquarters to get ready for the season, and all of a sudden I see these semis coming at me on Route One, and it's like, oh, that's one of ours. That's one of ours, because I see that
One of
wreath.
ours.
And
Well, and it's as simple as they go across the country.
truth.
As they come out of Maine and they're going wherever they're going, that wreath is a symbol. I think it was 2 years ago, Susan, you and I were standing there at the escort getting ready, and watching. They had snow on the wreaths because it had snowed the night before, and just watching them as they started out on the escort and people were leaving, and how pretty it was. And hearing the stories of the drivers talking about driving down and people recognizing them because they had that wreath on the front of their trailer. The amount of conversations they had at a truck stop about what they did, what they were hauling, it's just amazing. And the thanks and the gratitude you get, not just from the communities, from the families, but from the other drivers. I haven't talked to a person where a driver wasn't like saying thank you to another driver, and ensuring, just sharing that kindness and compassion that we see for America's heroes that are hauling these loads.
So
Many of the drivers that come up, yes, are veterans, but they may also be a Gold Star family. Chris Shepard, last year was probably the one, he and his wife Nancy, who had just buried their son less than a year before in Arlington National Cemetery. Um, you know, I've never received in my entire career an email and text that moved me the way that theirs did. And they thanked me, and all the thanks should be going to them. And that, that's why some days I tell people they're long hours. We make it a lot of fun up in Maine. That's for sure. I'm up there and love the opportunity and welcome everyone who comes in to come and see me. I want to get to meet you. I want to get to know you as a person. I want to definitely make sure I thank you for you coming up. There are just so many different ways that we can work together as this industry. And the way that Wreaths Across America happens is because of all the people listening on this channel, all the people that have listened, not just to you and I, Susan, but definitely everyone at Radio Nemo. I had the opportunity to, talk to Dave after he rode through part of the convoy last year.
And he
And
tagged a
he
tree.
was just, yeah, he definitely did. And he was blown away. And for someone, Dave also being a veteran, it's something that's, touched his heart. It made sure he really got it. And for those who know Dave, he braved the cold weather. He hates cold weather just like I do. And he would do it again a million times over. And
Oh, absolutely.
hearing how impactful that was for someone as esteemed as Dave, tells us that what we're doing out there is something, we're doing something right. We're doing something wonderful.
And
Um,
and it's so true, Courtney. But as I always retort when folks say, thank you, Wreaths Across America, it's like, thank American citizens. Thank American citizens. Last year, over 3.1 veterans wreaths. These wreaths are sponsored by individuals. You go online at wreathsacrossamerica.org, you sponsor a veterans wreath, and because of that wreath sponsorship, that's why we are reaching so many communities. And it's that easy to do, to go online to sponsor a wreath. And these veterans wreaths are honoring someone who has fallen, a loved one of a family member, as you pointed out, Courtney. And so many of our professional drivers are military veterans, some of them Gold Stars themselves, some of them Blue Star families with people serving, or they've got somebody in their family history who has served, and everybody who experiences it. And so many drivers have said, you can tell the stories, you can share the stories like you do on Trucking Tributes on the radio or on the blog, but until you personally experience it, you don't quite get it. It doesn't quite sink in entirely. But once you have experienced it, you want to keep coming back. So, Courtney, let's go back to those open loads. You know that we're growing by leaps and bounds, and you know that you've got some locations that you had mentioned at the head of the show here. Let's talk about some of those open lanes available and who might be able to step in to fill them.
so I have about 30-ish open lanes right now. If the middle of December is not good for you to deliver by December 12th, I've got in the 1st of December will work for you, then fabulous. Because what we can do is I've got loads that are going to our cross dock, whether it's, in Greensboro, North Carolina, whether it's Ridgeland, Mississippi, or into St. Louis, Missouri. We've got loads that can go there. If you pick up at the beginning of December and get them into those locations, into those cross docks, you're still making an impact. You are still delivering those wreaths, and that's a one stop. Now we have loads that pick up in Greensboro that go to Western North Carolina, into an area that was hugely affected by Hurricane Helene. And it is amazing to see how the communities are still sponsoring, and impactful there. But I've got loads that go into Florida, right? Florida is a really popular place. So if you want to go down to Florida, I've got you covered. I've got several loads available in Texas. A lot of the Texas loads do pick up in Maine. I've got one in Mississippi that picks up in Ridgeland, which is Jackson, Mississippi, and then just goes down along the coast. So within 3 hours. Loads that pick up in Phoenix and deliver into Nevada or deliver into California. there is an opportunity for each and every one of y'all to participate and make a huge difference out there in your community.
And it does make that huge difference. And you are honored and recognized. Courtney touched on Driver Appreciation Week. Man, that's every week for us at Wreaths Across America because we really, truly believe genuinely that you are such an integral part of this mission, regardless of where you are taking your wreaths. They need to get there. Obviously, they need to get
Yep.
all the millions of volunteers across this country who are literally waiting and depending upon our professional drivers to get those wreaths to them so that they can honor our fallen. That is the mission of Wreaths Across America. We are not decorating graves at Christmas time. That's not what this is about. These are called veterans wreaths, and that tradition of using fresh evergreen to honor our fallen is centuries and centuries old, and that's usually because that fresh evergreen is always fresh even during the colder months of the year when other greens and flowers are dormant at that time. So it's a traditional offering of honor and remembrance to those who have fallen. Remember our fallen, honor those who serve and their families, and teach the next generation the value of freedom and the sacrifice behind that freedom, because as we say many times, freedom is not free. There is a cost to that, and so many people have paid that ultimate price, and we are here to remember them. Our mission, you've got it, you've heard it. Our slogan this year, our theme, keep moving forward. Who does that better than the transportation industry, right, Courtney?
This theme was built for us this year. The transportation industry, keep moving forward. That's what we do. Trucking has been hard hit the past 2 years in the economy, and we are continuing to move forward. And we recognize how many people make sacrifices just to be able to haul this load. And so help us keep moving forward. Help us keep pushing this mission as we grow each and every year. And we can do that with every single one of the listeners. All you've got to do is email me at trucking@wreathsacrossamerica.org. And let's ensure that we get all of these drivers that want to participate. I am committing to y'all here on this phone, on this call. If you want to participate, reach out. I will help you. I will help talk to your company. I just need you to maybe give me the name and number of the person I should reach out to. I don't always know that. So I am committed to helping you. If you are an owner operator, we do special things for owner operators and lease purchase drivers that want to help haul loads. I am committed to making it work for you. And that is a commitment that is not going to change for me, because there are so many incredible people in this industry, and I want as many people to be involved as want to be.
Every driver I've spoken with, as the pitch to other professional drivers, just find a way, just do it. You're never going to regret participating. And as Courtney explained, when you show up at a cross dock or you show up at the driver's check-in lounge in Maine, or particularly when you show up at the participating cemetery with their veterans wreaths, you are treated like kings and queens, and it gives us great joy and pride to know that you're treated like you are a member of the Wreaths Across America family, and you are. It's all genuine from the bottoms of our hearts, without a doubt. Courtney George, Director of Transportation and Industry Relations, thank you once again, as always, for sharing a little bit of time of your day for me on Trucking Tributes.